All right, this next film is featuring a fellow graduate of my high school, Sharon Stone. Basic Instinct.
Yes.
I finally got my girlfriend to watch it. A Paul Verhoeven film. What did you think?
So, first of all, it's one of my favorite genres. I love film noirs, intellectual thrillers, and it had always been on my list. Always. One of the things that stood out for me so much, he and I totally disagree on the ending. And that's great.
Right.
And I think you can disagree about it. You are still not sure who's guilty. So
It's open-ended.
To me, it was so obvious who was guilty, and to him, it was so obvious who was guilty, and we had totally opposite opinions.
Isn't that weird?
Amazing. Like, yeah. So, and it's really, I guess, how you personally read these characters. It's like a cat and mouse type of story.
Hunting.
It deals with manipulation, sex distracting you in things, and people using that to their advantage.
In the early 90s, it was all about being flashy and showing that you got the goods and a nice car and a big palisade, a nice mansion.
Yes.
Everything was just still running off of the 80s fumes to show that you have status.
Yeah, and I'm just coming to this conclusion that they loved putting Michael Douglas in movies with hot, crazy women. Because he had Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, Glenn Close.
This one, there's a few others, I'm sure. He was perfect for that, right?
He had the looks.
And again, it is a true, I think, noir. That's how it feels.
And I usually hate noir, but this film is amazing.
He secretly loves them.
Love-hate relationship.
The character development as far as, again, relating to certain characters more than others, sympathizing with certain characters more than others, and you could be sympathizing with the wrong person. I really think at the end of the day, regardless of if you think one person did it or the other, Michael Douglas's character comes off as like not the brightest. He just is like constantly...
Dummy.
Yeah.
He's getting taken advantage of by women.
So... Yes.
There's many women. The early 90s, LA, just add Michael Douglas to anything.
Right. And the interrogation scene that everyone knows, I love that too because it was...
legs uncrossing and crossing again.
Right, and it wasn't just about that. It was so much about her taking control of the interrogation and interrogating them instead. And that was just great.
Props to Sharon Stone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone could actually do that in real life.
It was a power move.
Even regardless of like what she did, it was like what she said too, like through the entire time. You
with
know?
the cigarette.
The cigarette, and it was just
the whole shebang.
Yeah, I think that if you haven't seen it, you kind of just need to like buckle in and
you can read
go
it
for
as
the ride. Because I really don't want to sway anyone either way about who did it. And I think that's really important.
It's a whodunit after
film.
all.
It really is.
Beyond the ice pick.
Yes.
I'm so glad you got to see it.
I know.
It is so cute.
One final film to talk about that I showed you, and this one's different because it's a rewatch for him.
I haven't seen it since 2003. It was when I was like 15. So watching it as a 33-year-old, it just felt more of a mature viewing. I didn't really get some of the themes. I did not know you could read it as a queer film. The father figure in the movie was ended up being a homosexual. So knowing that I could watch this as an adult, I'm so glad you showed it to me. Again, I mean, it's one of her favorite movies.
Sam Mendes.
Sam Mendes did it back in the day. He made a brilliant film. The idea of an American dream being shown through like not so flashy lens. You kind of get the feeling that you can't get everything with money. It doesn't buy you happiness. A lot of people are just depressed. This seems like a very dark side of the American dream. How it's not what everybody wants. Being happy with your own self and not trying to live up to some sort of ideal. A late 90s movie. 1999, the best year in film. So many classics. That's another video coming up. It was a movie that just shattered expectations because they cleaned up at the Oscars.
Big time.
With Kevin Spacey's. It showed that like there was such a difference between the beginning of the 90s and the end of the 90s as this came out in 1999.
The 80s promised money, success. Mm-hmm. Everyone was doing well.
Yuppie mentality.
It went into the 90s where people were still doing very well, yet people weren't necessarily happy. This really plays a part in that, and that's not the only film to discuss this in 1999, because you also had a movie like Fight Club Office Space, I believe, was also that
Yes.
year. And it is...
People being tired of everything.
Yes, and it's kind of like, okay, I was told to do this. I was told to go to college. I was told to get an office job. I was told, like, I'm going to make tons of money. Okay, I made tons of money. I have the family. I have a huge house. But I'm honestly miserable.
The 90s are history. Heading into
Yeah.
the new millennium, it was a whole different thing about, you know, it was the me generation coming in. It was the switch between Gen X and Gen Y, or millennials. Let's move on.
It's really cutting through the BS and hypocrisy, because in that film, Kevin Spacey is surrounded by hypocrisy, including himself. So that's really, I mean, I think even the posters for that film, the tagline was "Look Closer," and it's like these beautiful houses, but like there's a screwed up
Something
family
going
in there,
on
like the
behind
dynamic. Yeah, everyone's essentially living some lie in that movie.
You gotta. It's like putting on a mask, living in the suburbs, trying to live up to ideals.
Yeah.
Yeah, hypocrisy run rampant.
Yeah, and even the neighbor, the kid, he is...
With the bag floating in the air.
Yeah, even though he comes off as kind of weird, even though he's one of the most genuine characters, he's still hiding behind a camera.
He's the filmmaker of the movie.
He's still wearing a mask. It isn't until he meets...
Thora Birch?
Thora Birch, yes. Everyone kind of finds their breakthrough of hiding by the end of the film.
It really reminds me of Stepford Wives. Little boxes on the hillside.
In conjunction with that, there are two characters that are not big characters, but they're probably the ones that are living the most genuine, and it is the gay couple. Chris Cooper is greeted by them, and you know he's like, "Oh, that's your partner? Like, what business are you in?" And they're like, "No, we're like together. We are married." Or I guess they actually it wasn't legal back then, but essentially married. And they are the happiest out of anyone in that movie.
So genuine. Be yourself.
Well, they don't fit in the mold, but they're definitely loving their life. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that you have to do a whole Kevin Spacey in that film,
lifting weights, and
he really just had kind of a midlife crisis.
That's why it's so multi-layered.
Right. It was like a midlife crisis piled on top of the fact he was just sick of everyone's nonsense.
Yeah. Like Office Space in the same year, 1999. You're just sick of this.
Sick of it, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Everyone kind of finds their breakthrough from hiding one way or another, whether they like it or not, too. Some of them are totally fine keeping this perfect facade up. Everything's great, even though I'm miserable, or like
shocking how complicit and complacent these people are.
My Instagram, and I think I talked about this film, people in this era sometimes watch this movie and think that it's dated because it doesn't feel as fresh. I feel like it's only because
time capsule.
It set the it did something that no one had done prior, and then everyone tried to emulate. So if it feels tired to you, it's because you saw a bunch of stuff after that film that was full on inspired by that movie. So
it's a template.
Yes.
For the new millennium, like going from there 2000 on into the 10s and 20s.
So,
enough said.
Yes. So check that one out. Please.
Please.
Yes. We are now at the finale, which is a movie that neither of us had seen. And
it's a new one.
Yes, and we were really excited about it.
From 2020. It is the third in the movie franchise, Bill and Ted.
Yes, Bill and Ted Face the Music. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, it was amazing.
Heavenly. As Keanu says, no, you're breathtaking. It was a great way to end the trilogy.
It was, and we have to, both of us feel this way. If we're going to watch it, either definitely watch the first two, if not the first two, at least the second one prior, and I think it makes a much bigger impact. I was crying so much at the end of the third one, and I was not expecting that at all. It was just such a beautiful ending, and it just, especially when you find out like they've been wanting to make this movie for a really long time,
decades.
Yeah, they were like, well, we'll make it in our 30s, and then that didn't happen. Well, I guess they'll do it in their 40s, right. And they're like, well, I guess we're gonna make it in our 50s, and they did. It was great. The story was really great. Good. The writing was great. The characters were great. The two women that played their daughters nailed it. Nailed it.
Goo goo.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were complete clones. She even had to tweet about it, and he's like.
Yeah, that did happen, actually. They were just like perfect fits to play their daughters, and they really added something special to the film. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what generation you are. Music connects everyone. It doesn't matter what language you speak. And that's what was so beautiful about that ending. And I'm not spoiling anything, but like that is the message of the movie. And it just really spoke to me greatly.
And they're musicians. They want to be like their dads. And they were the babies at the end of the last one, A Bogus Journey.
Yes.
It's almost like they picked up the story right where they left off. Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff.
Yeah. What he said.
Doctor Who fans out there?
Main characters are back. They also brought back William Sadler, who plays Death, and he was just so great in that role. And again, someone that emotes so much from his eyes. Yeah,
I know, he has to act with all that stuff on his face, and like he's clearly like the best character in all these films.
Yeah, and everything was so clever. They didn't do anything that was cliche or hokey at all. Like it was so genuine.
They don't not include George Carlin.
Oh,
just saying.
Yes, there's a little nod.
Hologram.
Yes. It's been a rough year, guys. If you really want something to just be uplifting and fun and and again genuine, watch this movie. You won't be disappointed at all. It'll just make a really fun evening for yourselves. And
truly.
The only way to rent it is to rent it on
Now that it's been out for a little bit, it's cheaper, so please, we implore you.
Yes, I believe it's on Amazon or Amazon Prime, but
it's on Amazon or Vudu or however you get your rentals.
Yes, so we hope you enjoyed this video. Those were just some films that really helped us get through this crazy time, and we think that they might help you get through it as well.
Yes.
And again, if you've seen any of these movies, if you disagree, agree, we'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Like and subscribe. You guys, it's really nice to have support from so many people. Everyone's really
a lot.
Giving us such great feedback.
And thank you, Tracy, for having me again.
You're welcome.
Sincerely.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, so we will see you next time.
Peace out. Like Titanic, spoiler alert, they die.
Right. Exactly. So
rest in peace, Jack.
We're still working.
You let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Forget about it.